chandeliers glow. We'll sip our worries away, nice and slow. Your laughter ripples like sweet warm wine. In this jazzy sultry space you're mine. The saxophone croons a velvet tune, while melodies dance beneath the moon. We'll toast to moments both grand and small, in this hazy, lazy, jazz-touched hall. Let's sit together in the mellow night. We'll drink to love till the morning light. Every glass we raise a promise true. Here's to the magic in a drink with you. Your eyes, they sparkle with every click. Sweet rendezvous over a simple drink. We'll share our secrets in whispers low, just you and me where the jazz flows slow. The world outside fades into the mist, but here it's our own dreamy tryst. With each sip our worries drift away. Let's stay together till the break of day. So let's sit together in the mellow night. We'll drink to love till the morning light. Every glass we raise a promise true. Here's to the magic in a drink with you.
The following live stream has been approved for appropriate audiences. It may contain occasional strong language and may not be suitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer inebriation is advised, though not mandatory.
Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome back to Last Call, where tonight we continue our retrospective and exploration of Doctor Who, this time focusing on perhaps the most well-known of the classic era of doctors, Tom Baker. So throw on that scarf, grab a bag of jelly babies, tell me what you're sipping on in the chat, and we'll fire up the time circuits on the TARDIS and ask the question,
who knows? Who knows?
And to start us out, a bit of a primer from channel member and producer, Geek Flag with Nate Knows.
Last Call is streamed before a live audience.
I thought I would contribute to tonight's Last Call. You see, for me, Tom Baker was my introduction to Doctor Who, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of us, but for me it was a very distinct memory. Let me set the scene. Picture a little 8.5-year-old Geek Flag in bed, probably the sickest he has ever been in his short life, home from school, feeling miserable. My mother took pity on her baby boy. She came into my room with one of those rolling trays with homemade chicken soup, saltine crackers, a cup of hot tea, and a portable black and white TV. She plugged it in and turned it to PBS, just in time to catch the tail end of the Bloodhound Gang. Then, while sipping my tea and eating my soup, it happened. That unique tune we know as the Doctor's theme pierced my little brain. The episode was The Ark in Space, Part 1. The first image I see is of a space station floating in space, and then an alien eye view of a person in suspended animation. Then, the most peculiar sound, followed by the materialization of a blue police box, and then a man with shaggy hair, a hat, and a long scarf emerged from the box, followed by two others, identified right away as Henry and Sarah by the man in the hat and scarf. and he in turn was identified as the doctor. Now, with my curiosity piqued, their adventure unfolded before me, and now my imagination was fully engaged. Tom Baker's tone of voice, the cadence of his speech, and the banter between him and his companions drew me into this new sci-fi world. Well, that's my story of the Doctor. I know it's a bit long-winded. Sorry about that.
And didn't I? I was on the... Yeah, I'll figure it out someday, probably just before I retire from YouTube. But anyway, Vasalud, welcome. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. Hope you are looking forward to that, and I hope you enjoyed since Nate reached out to me by DM with his story. I was like, this story needs to be shared. So I figured we'd actually start out the stream with that one tonight. So I figured you guys would enjoy that. Let's say hi to my panel, starting with my companion, Sarah Jane Smith, Netter of Netters Network. How you doing, my dear? What you sipping on tonight?
I do real well. It's the end of the week. I am actually sipping on a cherry pomegranate fruit juice, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
fair enough. And Dave Ross, so good to see you tonight. How you doing, Boomer? What you sipping on?
Fine. Can you hear me okay, or do I sound like a Dalek?
Yep, you sound fine. Well,
then you'd have to sound like this.
If you sound like a Dalek later, that
Okay,
we'll just play that off as planned. What you said?
Anyway, no, I'm doing fine. I got a Coke here. I guess I should have a ginger beer though, since we're watching Doctor Who, because wasn't that Tom Baker's doctor's drink of choice, if I recall?
Good point. Good point. Maybe I'll have a ginger beer a little bit later on myself, but because I do have some. So there you go. But yeah, I obviously love classic Doctor Who, and I think most people that have commented the last video and sent me DMs and whatnot have said, yeah, their first Doctor was the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker. But first with us tonight, just because he got here first, was FKHC 2005, also known as Tim Hale. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Followed shortly thereafter by Curtis Selby, the tired midnight blogger. Hail to you as well. Lady Mist, dropping the blue emojis for Netter, which encourages her. Connie Cleary, the bird woman of YouTube. Salute. Good to see you. Jesse Green. He says hello. Good to see you, my friend. And salute to Deleted Scenes. Good to see you, my friend. Let's see here. Yes, as he always says when he gets here. Like, share, subscribe, become a member. I would certainly appreciate that. And speaking of becoming a member, he's dropping the membership emojis. The fedora, the brown mumbler, the channel logo, and the Canarble Wagon. And here's the guy that introduced our show tonight. He says, "Who has the jelly babies?" Yeah, Netter often gets me jelly babies and curly whirlies from an importer, but that importer has gotten less reliable lately. So we're looking for other options. I understand we may be paying more because of tariffs, but I'm okay with that.
One of the advantages of living in Florida, we of course will get, well, we get British tourists. So once in the grocery store with a few jelly babies on the shelf.
There you go. And Evelyn Hampton, who of course a couple years back visited the Doctor Who experience in the UK. Welcome, Evelyn. So good to see you here. Hope you're feeling well. And Darth Plato, and we just lost Boomer. He'll be back. All right, it's showtime. Yes, it is, Darth Plato. Welcome to you. And welcome to the guy who just left, Aged Boomer. He'll be back. And of course, Ruby Hoove, who is now a channel member herself. Thank you so much for being here. He has now gifted a membership to Small Time Republic. Welcome, Small Time Republic, to channel membership. Hope you enjoy it here, and hope you decide to stick around. We'll see. Let's see here. The Peter Venkman fan site. Welcome. Wow, it's his PBS aired Doctor Who in the afternoon. Mine aired it at night on Saturdays, and that was in the 80s. Yeah, so obviously every PBS station around the country was different. They operated autonomously, so they had their own viewing schedules. But Netter and myself and Evelyn Hampton are all from the Chicagoland area, so we all watched on WTTW in Chicago. Evelyn was telling us last week that before Netter and I started watching Doctor Who, probably in the mid 70s or so, she said that they had Doctor Who here during the week. I think she said in the daytime. But then by the time I was watching it, I was in high school. So really, it wasn't even in the 70s so much. It was more in the 80s. I was watching the Sunday night, late Sunday night, like, I can't remember, it was like 10, 11 o'clock at night on Sundays. Welcome to CluuStudio. And he gifted a membership as well. Thank you so much. I super appreciate that. That went to Danny D. Welcome to channel membership. Good to see you, my friend. And Darth Plato says, great. $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Darth Plato. Great to see the face reveal of Agent Boomer. It explains a lot. Yes, exactly right. Oh, why didn't you just come in, Boomer? You can do that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I figured, be polite. Oh, I figured be polite and let the host bring you in. But no, I switched internets. Hopefully, I don't know if I was, yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, you can come and go as you please. You can kick me out if you want. If I should get a little too, but that's
anyway. I did want to compliment.
Go ahead.
I did want to really compliment Geek Flag on his. Actually, speak of the devil.
$5. Thank you. He pays me $5 for using his story. I should be paying him, actually.
That was a great video. And I wonder if if many of us can actually look back on our own introduction to Doctor Who. Was it something similar to that? I'm curious.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell my story a little bit, because yes, I was in the same situation with Tom Baker really being my first, and then we had to go back and watch the earlier ones later on.
And I think for most Americans, Tom Baker was our first Doctor. Like, I don't think we were aware how old this series was. We didn't have the internet back then. You might pick up a book later on as the show became popular. They would explain, oh no,
right.
There were other
we came in kind of en medias res, and I think that a lot of people were surprised when later on they started doing the older ones. They were like, wow, so this is an older show. Mm-hmm. Which was also very complicated, because then we ended up seeing a lot of those broken up ones where we didn't have full serials,
So for the British, they kind of look at it, I guess, nostalgically as a 60s series, but I think in the United States, I guess Canada as well, it's really a 70s, 80s, but really 70s, 70s and 80s, a series. So it's weird,
absolutely. Robert's Infinite Realm says, hello, Troy and Netter. One of my favorite subjects with Doctor Who, found him on PBS at my grandparents' house. Tom Baker, of course. Agreed. Welcome. Let's see. Yes, no, I knew what you mean. I know a lot of people use speech to text, and sometimes the AI isn't so it was well done by Troy because I was not that adorable when I was a kid. Yeah, so I had no idea what Nate looked like as a kid. So AI just kind of genericked him up. I'm assuming that Geek Flag didn't have 6 fingers on one hand, but you never know. I mean, he may have and then corrected later in life. These things do happen, I suppose. But don't want to miss nobody like Samuel Proctor, who's stopping in to say hello. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Darth Plato says PBS near me did not air Doctor Who. KTEH in San Jose did weeklies at 7:30 and Saturdays at 11 a.m. Peter Theta. I see. You're talking to Peter. Peter Venkman. Yes. Show it on the weekends at night and re-show the same episode in the week on Wednesday in the afternoon. Gosh, that was you were spoiled because if we missed an episode, we were lost. We wouldn't get to see it again until they cycled through all the doctors they had to come all the way back around. And if you missed it again, you were sunk. And again,
there was a trick though. I had a trick living in my part of New Jersey. You want to know what it was?
Were you also able to pick it up on another station?
New York. We got both the New York and the New Jersey PBS stations because of where we were situated in New Jersey. So what would happen was, I think the New York PBS station would show it in the afternoon on Saturdays, and the New Jersey PBS would show it in the evening, and they were going through different cycles. And it was weird because one of them would do like all 4 episodes where they were each broken down. You see the credits and the new episode would begin. And I think the one in New Jersey actually spliced the episode into one long block. So they actually got rid of the transitions and just made it one long block. I remember Peter Davidson on an audio commentary asked, how did they watch this in the States? Were they individual? Or were they one long block? And I wanted to tell Peter Davidson, both. They did it both, depending on your PBS station. Yes.
There you go. There you go. And I think I'm caught up with the chat now. I am now caught up with the chat. So yeah, I guess we can probably get into our conversation for tonight, talking about Doctor Who. Take it away, Aged Boomer.
Yeah. I should have given a part 1. I don't know if I gave a description. I probably should have called it the beginning, right? For part 2, we're going to call this the Golden Age because I believe this probably is the Golden Age of Doctor Who. I think this was when it hit its peak popularity, at least worldwide. I think everybody knew who Tom Baker was, or at least, well, people who like sci-fi knew who Tom Baker was. Maybe the general public over here, but
kind of by way of transition from last week. So we had pointed out that at the time that we went from the first Doctor to the second Doctor, from Hartnell to Troughton, they weren't calling it regeneration. I think the Doctor referred to it as a rejuvenation. The idea being that the thought was that this was a younger version of the same individual. By the time they put him on trial and decided that they were going to ground him on Earth in the like early 70s, which was a few years ahead of where they were, in the real world, take away his time circuit and force a regeneration on him. That's where we came to realize, okay, now we're instituting this concept of the regeneration. So in Kingdom of the Spider, was it Kingdom of the Spiders? Web of the Spiders?
Planet of the Spiders.
Planet of the Spiders, that's what it was. Where the third Doctor is dying, he changes into the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, and yes, that's an excellent pointing out. Tom Baker is 91 years old. That's absolutely true. First Tom Baker was Arc of Infinity. I didn't see the robot until years later. There you go. So,
Yeah, that was the first episode with Baker, and it was kind of iconic, even from the get-go. The people argued that Tom Baker didn't have to waste any time jumping into the role. He was the Tom Baker doctor from the get-go. He just...
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the transition where Sarah Jane, who had been been a companion to the Pertwee doctor, didn't understand what was happening, and they had that bit of we talked about it. She met the doctor's teacher or whatever, who was
Yes.
the Buddhist monk type Gallifreyan, and she was kind of warned about it, but she didn't really understand. And when she tried to explain it to Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's happened before," because he had met the doctor as the second doctor.
So he knew, because remember, the Brigadier didn't take him seriously as a doctor when he first met him with the changed appearance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
This is, of course, there was another companion during this area. What was his name again?
Was it Henry or
Harry? I guess I should know. We were always focusing on Sarah Jane, so
Harry.
It was Harry.
Okay.
There
we go. Sorry. But yeah, there's Sarah Jane.
Slade. Yeah.
Yes. Very iconic Doctor Who companion.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most famous of the Doctor Who companions, at least until Rose Tyler.
So when people talk about, these postmodern kids talk about the Doctor was always progressive, Doctor Who was always progressive, they are probably referring to Sarah Jane and a couple of the female companions before her during the Pertwee era, who were definitely second wave feminists. This is the pose that Netter was taking in the other picture that she used last week. This was, of course, from the attempt. It was basically a pilot.
An attempted pilot,
called Girl's Best Friend.
Was it Canine and Company?
They decided on Canine and Company, but they did one episode that was called The Girl's Best Friend. The series would have been called Canine and Company, which didn't make a lot of sense given the tone of A Girl's Best Friend, because it was absolutely, she was the doctor of the episode, and Canine was just a companion, just like he was to the doctor. But so it was the whole women's lib thing and so forth. The robot. Yeah,
that was the first episode with Tom Baker. I remembered this. Now this is what I felt like New Who was missing. I wanted more of. I like the fact that it's not just aliens that Doctor fights against, or like extraterrestrials. They're also terrestrial threats. This was created by a human scientist, right? This robot. And it decides, let's kill all the humans, right? As I recall, if memory serves.
As just about every sci-fi robot, they've been trying to warn us for a long time, and we're hell bent on not listening. Apparently,
robot kind of looks like Lucifer from Battlestar Galactica. You make a good point there.
Good point. Yeah.
Another great, I don't know if that's late 70s, early 80s science fiction series.
Yep.
But look at that. You got the scarf. You got the hat.
Yep.
Look at that.
And again, all of the Doctor's episodes were serialized through novelizations, so you always had those as a backup.
Now, Geek Flag had mentioned the Ark in Space. I believe that was the next episode in this first season. Then you had a weird 2-part episode, which was about them going up against a Centauran that we were introduced to in the last Pertwee season.
That's right.
But then we get to the big one where they're holding on to the time ring that I guess the Time Lords gave the Doctor. So he doesn't even have the TARDIS, right? He's going on a mission given by the Time Lords. They have to all Harry, Sarah Jane, and him have to, and the Doctor have to grab onto this ring. And what was the thing? Okay, no, I remember now. The Time Lords go to the Doctor, and they ask him for a favor, and they say, "You've dealt with the Daleks before. We have foreseen a future where the Daleks have wiped out all life, and just the Daleks remain." Right? And they're like, can you? And he says, you want me to go back in time and prevent the Daleks from ever being created? And the Time Lord says, or stunt their development so they don't destroy all life in the universe, right?
Which is very clear that they were trying to soften the genocidal, concept behind the story, because let's face it, television.
Well, not only that, though, but if you think about it, the Daleks are all about genocide, but then what are you going to do? You're going to do genocide against the Daleks to prevent them? It's this weird moral quandary you're in. What does that make you if you wipe out all the Daleks, right?
But the Daleks have always been the victim. They've been put upon by the Thals for so long, and then the Doctor comes along, and it's yeah.
Do you know throughout human history, oppressive regimes like a certain German group and maybe even other groups in other countries
always claim to be the victims.
Always claim to be the victim. Yes, it's weird. They see themselves as the victim.
People need to pay attention. This is why they say if you don't learn from history, you will repeat it, you dumbass. I think that's an exact quote.
Genesis
Santayana, I'm sure he said the Spanish equivalent of dumbass.
Oh, interesting, Darth Plato. That's a picture from one of the novelizations. I had one of these for Genesis of the Daleks. I had a few of these Doctor Who novelizations, and Genesis of the Daleks is one of them. I don't know if it was this one or if it had a different cover on it. I think I had a darker cover. Maybe it was a Signet release, if memory serves.
I saw darker covers too, but at the same time, that's because, they were usually... They'd been around for a while. So they started to yellow.
I think the other one I had was the Towns of Wang Chiang. I think I had this and Genesis, and Genesis of the Daleks. Those were the two I had, which we'll get into the Towns of Wang Chiang later. But what is Genesis of Daleks?
That's exactly right. Would you go back in time to kill Mustache Man?
Yes, and we'll cover that story again when we get to
they actually literally do that story in the Matt Smith
let's not go over what was considered one of the worst episodes of the Matt Smith era, which we'll get into when we get
to it. Kind of was, but I did like it too. I mean, I don't know. See, that's just it. Sometimes the worst episodes of some of these Doctors are still better than anything that's come since.
It was during that era where people were starting to question the direction of the series. Like, what are we doing here? Because they thought it was barely an episode. We'll get into that later. Let's talk about the Golden Age, which was Tom Baker. But this is, of course, Genesis of the Daleks. We get introduced to how the Daleks are created, and there is their creator, Davros.
So it's not Dave Ross.
No, that's what Simon Pegg would say when he was being interviewed. When I was growing up, I was terrified of the man on TV, Mr. Dave Ross. Yes.
Right.
But I believe the man next to him his name was Nider. Someone in the chat was mentioning how this has World War I vibes, but also certain, I guess, if I can say Gestapo vibes. Too. Yeah, it's very creepy. You do know that at this point in the war, how long had this war between the two groups, the Thralls and the Khalids, been going on? It was centuries, maybe? It was a horrifyingly long time. So I guess this is, in a way, is his last solution. Let's create and I think the problem with the Khalids is that they were starting to devolve, or they were starting to mutate into these creatures, right, with the tentacles, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of being humanoid,
that was because of the radiation from, I believe it was nuclear weapons.
Yes. So here we go. Nice chair, Boomer. Funny. I picked him because of who on this season has wrinkles? Oh, Davros. Let's pick Davros.
Yes. Absolutely true.
But if we go on, though, this is considered one of the greatest Doctor episodes. This was a weird quandary where he almost kills Davros in this scene, right?
Yeah.
As I recall. There is an interesting point where the Doctor is actually trying to reason with Davros. It's one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen on television, where he goes, Davros, let's say you had a vial, a sealed vial, with a virus in it that could destroy all known life in the universe, and it was in the palm of your hand. Would you break it? And he said, oh, what a fascinating proposition. By the simple pressure of my thumb, I could destroy all life. And he's like, very interesting. I would do it. that power would put me above the gods. And it's at this point, Davros, there's no saving him, right?
Exactly. But
He's that
it also
maniacal.
plants the idea in his head to wipe out all life in the universe. Literally, the Doctor is responsible for setting him on that mission.
It's one of these weird things, like how much does the Doctor influence and how much does he stall? Now, I do believe he did stall their development, because it doesn't end with him destroying the Daleks, because I don't think he's able to, but he's able to, I think, seal them up for a long time so they can't get out.
Yeah.
So that did stall their development, though. But one of the greatest scenes in this episode is when Davros has created his Daleks and they won't listen to him, and he says, "You are an inferior being. You are not a Dalek." Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He taught them everything besides a Dalek was inferior and should be exterminated, but he didn't think of himself in that equation, did he? Right?
Exactly.
Hoisted on his own petard, I guess.
Well, and that's the great.
Let me go back.
That's the great lesson about computer programming, right? You've got to be very specific and very careful about, sweeping things. When you say all means all.
It's weird.
No exceptions.
We talked about Tron Legacy a couple weeks ago on Geeky Geezers, and Flynn did a similar thing to what Davros does, but his intentions were good. Yeah. He was wanting to create the perfect, but he made an error in the program clue, right? He said, you want to create the perfect system. And then, what was it? Then he said, but he had changed his mind of what perfection is. We don't really know what it is. It's always right there in front of us and far away.
That is the problem. Isaac Asimov covered this great deal with all of these things about, when he came up with the 3 laws of robotics, you can play with those so well, because you get a robot has to preserve the life of a human. So they will protect you from yourself. You can't do anything that's risky. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Eventually, it gets to the point where they keep you trapped in your room, on your bed, feeding you, clothing you, taking care of you. It just depends how their logic, interprets protect and preserve the life of. That could get pretty scary.
Robert's Infinite Realms says Davros versus the Doctor is very complicated, but in the best ways. Yeah, I would agree. And the Daleks themselves are a complicated monster. They're not. I get annoyed when people call them robots. They're not robots. I don't even know if they're quite cyborgs. I think the Daleks are dependent on those machines to survive.
Yeah,
right?
see, here's the thing. They do kind of play it both ways. They play it as though there's a programming, right? They are programmed with certain edicts.
Genetic manipulation probably done as a survival tactic on the mind.
There is that element of it too. Yes. But from a biological standpoint, they are mutants inside of the equivalent of a life-supporting tank.
Yes. Yeah, they're tanks. That's how I've always seen them.
Mm-hmm.
They have guns on them, and they have those suction devices that can pick up a lot of things. Yeah. But Flynn does not say it, but he realizes perfection is an imperfection, something I heard in relation to literature, like Mark Twain. Interesting. Well, he had time to think about it when he was stuck in the in the grid. But what do you think? Genesis of the Daleks, one of the best episodes of all time? Too easy? I don't know. It's everyone's favorite.
It's incredibly iconic, and it is one of the pillars of the overall Doctor Who lore.
Might be the best Dalek episode. I'm trying to think if there was one that was better. But let's move on to, then they end up...
the Cybermen.
This was not a good episode, if I recall. I'm sorry. I think I wanted to like it. Maybe your opinion differs.
Well, I did like the new costumes for them.
They look better than what we had.
Right.
I felt like something about this didn't quite click, and I don't remember what it was. I know this was where they introduced the idea of gold plugging up their exhaust systems, which some people were annoyed they entered that into the lore.
That was kind of dumb, but
I think it works.
And I believe they played. I think they played with that again later with David Tennant.
Yeah. Darth Plato said Genesis of the Daleks was a 6-parter. A lot of episodes were 6-parters. I have to tell you, if you were setting up your VCR, as many of us young kids knew how to do, more so than the adults in the room, back in the early 80s, you would set up your VCR to record for 2 hours to get your episode of Doctor Who, and then you realize, oh no, it's a 6-parter. I'm not going to get the end when you go to watch it. And then you'd have to wait for the cycle on the other PBS station. This would happen. And you'd be cross with yourself.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. 6 parts, but usually I think they were like 25 minutes each.
Yes.
So it didn't come out. It was, let's see, just slightly over an hour and like 40 minutes or so.
I mean, I would record on SLP anyway to get this, the 6-hour tapes. I would try to fit 3 episodes of Doctor Who on a VHS tape when I was recording.
There you go.
But in the US, I think the episode was called Planet of Gold. Interesting. No, it was Revenge of the Cybermen. Well, that's what it was in England. Maybe over here it was Planet of Gold. You're right. Because nobody knew who the Cybermen were over here, did they? I mean, this is just...
that's right. They couldn't bank on you having seen the Second Doctor episodes.
It's a good design. I like the fact that there's a cyber leader in the background with the black... I guess
the headpiece there,
headpiece, which they use later on when we get to the 80s Cybermen. They still use like the to denote leader.
Salute, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Welcome, good to see you, my friend.
But so that was the Revenge of the Cybermen, and there are other episodes as we go along. I'm probably going to miss some of these Sarah Jane Smith episodes, but I did my best because my memory of these isn't great. Like I told you, I'm rewatching a lot of the older series. I started with Pertwee, but I'm looking forward to getting into Baker again. But this is a Terror of the Zygons, right?
The Zygons held up really well when they tried to update them in the current day.
Right.
It didn't really change much.
They're still shapeshifters, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And they use organic spaceships, if memory serves, right?
I can't remember because so much of Doctor Who takes place planet side to keep the costs down. But you're probably right.
This was probably another episode where UNIT had to get involved, right?
Well, very oftentimes, yes. I like that Nate's saying about that Cyberman leader, Cyber Afro.
Oh, well.
There you go.
Zygons is a fan favorite, but never liked it.
Mm-hmm. Loch Ness Monster attacking London seemed silly. I agree. And wasn't that Loch Ness Monster like a robot or something like that?
Perhaps.
I don't even remember.
No, if it was the Zygons, it could have been... I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. Like I said, a lot of these earlier Tom Baker episodes are fuzzy. I did used to watch them regularly, but it's been a number of years. Like I said, I'm going to start rewatching them again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another problem, too. You couldn't even find these. Pyramids of Mars.
Oh, yeah. This one gets referenced big time in the David Tennant era.
Yeah, this was a big deal. So I believe he goes back in time to the 1800s with Sarah Jane Smith. Yep. I think she is dressed appropriately when Egypt fever was going on because they were finding all of these tombs and whatnot, right?
Yep.
So, but I think I think those are robotic mummies. Is that right?
Yes.
Run by an alien entity whose name escapes me, and I should know what it is because he was the major villain in this episode.
Yeah,
give me a moment, I'll look it up. But was this another favorite of yours?
I remember it. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a favorite of mine. Mark says the Klingons would have found the Zygons tasty. Yes, because they have Klingons have an octopus stew.
Oh, so they would like calamari.
Yeah, probably. I do.
I do as well. It's funny you get it different ways. You can get it as the rings. I've had that before. Yep. Sutek, that was his name.
There you go.
Who I believe it was inspired by the Egyptian god Set, right?
And what I love is that they came up with a name that could be either alien or vaguely, ancient Egyptian.
Yeah. So maybe he was an inspiration for some of the Egyptian gods, perhaps. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the was this the brain of Morbius, which they said was kind of a nod to Frankenstein, if I recall.
Well, I had never heard that before, but now that I think about it, yeah, it kind of was.
You know, it takes place on an alien planet. There's like an evil doctor on there, I think, or like evil scientist or something. I don't know. I don't remember this. Like, these are all vague to me. Like I said, I'm brushing up on them.
Yeah.
But Doctor Who has tons of silly but so much charm at the same time. Yes, I mean, what was it that drew you to Tom Baker? Is it just the fact that you never knew what to expect week after week? That's sort of what... Because it wasn't like they did a lot of these season-long storylines. It's like every story was a big deal, right?
Absolutely.
If I recall.
And to be honest, again, going back to, for most of us, this was the first Doctor for us. But in addition, when you go back and watch all the way through, even though I really did like Pertwee, there wasn't a lot of time travel there because he couldn't travel in time. So when we get to Tom Baker, not only do we start doing time travel again, but we get some interesting use of time travel where he starts doing some paradoxes. We talked a little bit about that with the Genesis of the Daleks, where not only might he have set Davros on the genocide path, given him the idea, but he certainly also is responsible for the for what eventually becomes the time war between the Daleks and the Time Lords.
Yeah. According to Darth Plato, this Morbius was controversial because it suggested that there were doctors before Hartnell. Interesting.
Yes. It depending on how you read that, that's what a lot of fans... for a lot of fans, that was their fan interpretation. Others were just saying that these were other possible incarnations in the future of the Doctor. And don't even get me started on modern retcons to that story.
We'll get to that later. There'll be time for that.
Won't even address it now. Yeah.
All right. And I think I'm going to get to the last Sarah Jane Smith story unless you have any others I missed, which I believe this was this the Hand of Evil or the Hand of Fear? I recall. Hold on.
I don't remember, but when the Doctor says, "Hey, can you lend me a hand?"
Of Fear.
I don't think this is what he meant.
The Hand of Fear. And of course, this was the there's just something so iconic about the way things looked in 70s Who. Because this is prior to Star Wars coming out, which of course changed the face of a lot of science fiction, what was expected out of it. But look at that design of our adversary in this episode, right?
Yeah, and Sarah Jane was such a cutie. She really was.
I don't know. I think that this horrible rock alien is kind of cute too, though. But anyway,
after a fashion, yeah, I'd agree. Mm-hmm.
Don't skip Seeds of Doom. I did skip Seeds of Doom, but what do you remember of Seeds of Doom, Troy? I know that was an important one. Oh, wait a minute. Did I skip Seeds of Doom? I thought I had it in here. Is that the one with the big plant creature? Did I have that in here or did I remove it? I don't remember now. I thought I had that in here.
I mean, there's and this was the last Sarah Jane. This is
Sarah Jane and Seeds of Doom?
Yeah. I honestly don't remember. We're really taxing my memory here. But so he drops off Sarah Jane. The idea behind it was he was supposed to be dropping her off in the right place and right time. So it'd been like she hadn't left. But it turns out he dropped her off, miles away from where she was supposed to be. That ends up coming back when she returns in the new Doctor Who serials. She recounts this story.
I know that Doctor was called away to Gallifrey. Darth Plato, I apologize. I forgot to put something in here about Seeds of Doom.
Yeah.
But I had you know what it was? No, I had a picture ready, but they didn't look right. They kept they were too pixely, and I gave
Oh,
up.
I
That's
see.
what
I
happened.
see.
I did have
Okay.
it in here. I remember that. Was that the one where they were considering killing off the Brigadier? I don't remember. I know there was one. I don't know if it was this or the Zygon episode where they were considering killing off the Brigadier, and then they decided they decided not to. I forgot the reasoning why, but they were
Mhm.
considering that. But I'll talk a little bit about the Seeds of Doom. In 2010, Mark Braxton, the Radio Times, awarded it 5 stars out of 5, describing the Seeds of Doom as a rich, classy serving with plenty of meat accompanying the vegetables. Ha 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 ha! And
I will
arguing that
also say, oh, go ahead.
the archive rating of Holmes Hinshoff era reaches the zenith here. Okay, it's an important episode. I just don't have it in the presentation, as you know,
So this outfit she's
too
wearing,
much.
and she's got the carpet bag and the doll. Netter and I were at a Chicago TARDIS convention, and somebody did this exact cosplay, and it was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh! And this was right after Liz Sladen had died, so it was like, oh man, you know.
And I think for a lot of people who were starting out with Tom Baker, we weren't used to a companion going away, were we? This might have been the first for a lot of people.
For yeah, if you were just coming in during the Tom Baker era, yeah. The major one, right? So you had your support, you know, like Harry and whatnot, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But Sarah Jane had been there from the beginning, and she was there most of the run, so it was like, yeah, that was a hard hit. It really was. Agreed, Big Al. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Sladen. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we move on to a weird interim episode called.
Oh, there she is
Oh,
holding
wait,
the
there's
hand.
another picture. Here we got another picture of her. Let's. But yeah, that explains though, and she's holding the hand. Isn't that great?
Pit Snipe Husker, welcome. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's
it's
funny.
great. I have to tell you, Doctor Who made great use of rock quarries.
Mm-hmm. So does Blake Seven, actually. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But moving on to
Oh, I know who that is.
the Deadly Assassins. So the Doctor is called away to Gallifrey. I have some interesting. This is his arch nemesis, the Master again. So this is from a fanzine that was written at the time. First, congratulations to Dudley Simpson for using the organ music for the Time Lords, but thumbs down for not using his excellent Master theme. Then there's the more than usually daft title. Have you ever heard of an assassin that isn't deadly?
Yes, exactly. That is lampooned by Stephen Moffat in his first story for Doctor Who. The blue, I believe it was a Red Nose special with Rowan Atkinson playing the Doctor, called Doctor Who and the Curse of Fatal Death. And it's a direct homage to the Deadly Assassin.
I remember that special. I think it was Jonathan Pryce playing the Master in that, I believe. Memory serves.
And there's just like the much maligned You Don't Like Casino Royale, where many people play James Bond. They go through all of the Doctor dying and regenerating, so a whole bunch of people get to play the Doctor, including a female Doctor.
The actress from Absolutely Fabulous, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Geek Flag with Great Nate Noah says, I cried when Sarah Jane left the TARDIS. I think a lot of us were kind of sad because we really like Sarah Jane, and now we're like losing a part of the show. At least they didn't kill her off. This is another time where they were thinking about killing her off.
Sarah Jane may have made me cry more than any other companion, because
I think Elizabeth. Sorry, go ahead.
Because I was going to say, I also cried when she returned. I want to say it was like School Days or something like that, where she returns during the
Tennant era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she says, "You're still my Doctor," and he says, "You'll always be my Sarah Jane." And I just get all teary-eyed. And then, of course, when she comes back for the
Sarah Jane Adventures.
Well, she had the Sarah Jane Adventures. She finally got her spin-off, but then she came back to Doctor Who for the big reunion episode.
Yes.
That was basically seeing off Davies and David Tennant.
Yeah.
And when she's leaving then, and she turns around and she waves, that was shortly before she passed. And so that scene after she dies is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
No. Did I say, yeah. Yeah, Mr. Bean.
Rowan Atkinson, who played Mr. Bean. I did want to make I did want to make a point that Elizabeth Sladen actually was instrumental in kind of how Sarah Jane was written out of the series. They were actually toying with the idea of killing her off, like in some big grand thing.
Right.
And she didn't want to do that. And she basically said she didn't want Sarah Jane getting killed. She didn't want her getting married off because the show is really about the Doctor. It's not about the companion.
Right.
And she didn't feel that the companion should have that much attention drawn on the companion. It's really the Doctor.
That's actually a wise... And I wish they had maintained that wisdom. I'm looking at you, Impossible Girl. You know.
Oh boy, we'll get there. We will get there. First reunion was the 5 Doctors. That's right. We'll get to that next time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the Master returns in The Deadly Assassin. He's the Deadly Assassin. He's not doing so well because he's on his last regeneration and trying
and he's literally trying to stay alive by any means necessary.
He's almost rotting away.
Exactly. In a way, he's like a revenant or a mummy. So yeah, that's very School Reunion. That's what it was. Yeah, that title actually makes more sense.
This is probably the episode where we learned Time Lords have 13 lives, right?
That I believe you're right. Well, they have 13 lives, 12 regenerations.
12 regenerations.
Which I'm so glad that they underscored again with Matt Smith when he is not called the 13th Doctor, but he actually takes the time to go through and explain why he is the 13th incarnation.
Boy, we'll get there. I have my own thoughts on that. Anyway, though, but during this era of Doctor Who, though, the Doctor had a greater adversary than the Master or Davros or the Daleks or the Zygons, and her name was Mary Whitehouse. Do you know who Mary Whitehouse was?
Didn't she want to cancel Doctor Who? She was trying to get rid of it?
Outspoken critic and a moral arbiter of all things. Apparently Pink Floyd...
is this the same one that wanted Chuck Berry's My Ding-a-Ling to be censored and never played on radio or something like that?
I know she had 3 big series she went after. One was, I think, like a soap because I guess it was too sexy or something. Benny Hill she hated. She went after that show a lot, and Doctor Who. Those were her three big bugaboos. And she was only getting started in the 70s. Wait until the 80s came around with the Video Nasty. She was heavily involved in that. But
I do want to address deleted scenes question. It's a great question. It's not a stupid question. It's a great question. But I'm not in the know. Have they ever killed off a companion? If so, what were the circumstances? Have we had one up to this point, Doc?
No. That'll be the next time. Next time we'll get to our first kill companion.
That's with in the Peter Day. I know exactly, and it was a big timey-wimey situation. It was, great story. That time,
one of my favorite episodes, actually, even though it does have a tragic ending for one of the companions. Yes.
And I didn't see it for the first time on television. I saw it at a convention for the first time before most people in the Chicagoland area got to see it.
So a Karen type then deleted scenes is asking, yes, we have more arbiters against popular culture show up. Dr. Frederick Wortham. More recently, perhaps some might argue Anita Sarkeesian is one of these types. And here during the 70s, we have Mary Whitehouse in England. let's get into some of her
Nothing new
comments.
under heaven. Nothing new under heaven.
Though she was probably coming for more of a.
And you know what I say now is the same thing I say to I would have said then. If the children are at risk from violence and obscene videos, where the hell are their parents?
Wasn't Adric a companion? We'll get there, Evelyn
We'll get
Hampton.
there.
Actually,
Yeah,
he may show up at the end of the stream.
Absolutely.
Because he okay.
The program
this is
okay.
This was in reference to I think the Deadly Assassin. The program contains some of the sickest and most horrific material ever seen on children's television, but no one has to take my word for such material is likely to disturb. For young children, even a week may be too long to wait for reassurance that the characters with whom they identify are safe. Doctor Who has turned into tea time brutality for tots.
And this is why we are in the soy era that we're in, where everyone feels that everyone needs to be wrapped in bubble wrap. Don't offend me. You know, that's violence. Words can kill, apparently. That's what ends up happening. You know what? You want to raise leaders in the world? Teach your children young. Life is hard. Life isn't fair. You better get tough, partner, very, very quickly. Quit your crying. Walk it off. Get over it. Watership Down, anyone? Anyone? Watership Down? A bunch of killer bunnies? But they're talking about some very real world elements of war that kids should learn about at an early age, because you know some of the parents of those kids lived through the London Blitz as children, and they learned it firsthand. I'd rather my kids learn about violence from a television show than actually living through it.
That's right. She goes on to say, my personal reaction to the sight of the Doctor being viciously throttled underwater is unimportant. What's important is the effect of such material, especially in a modern setting, upon the very young children so likely to be watching. Strangulation by hard, by claw, by obscene vegetable matter is the latest gimmick, sufficiently close up so that they get the point.
Maybe they learn that violence is not a good thing. It's abhorrent. So maybe they learn a good lesson from it.
And just for a little variety, show the children how to make a Molotov cocktail.
Don't worry, your neighbors will take care of that just fine.
All I remembered was poor Sam. Oh, yes. So here we go. So what are we to do? Sit back and say nothing when, after planning to the contorted visage of the demented murderer, the final shot of the particular episode was a close-up shot of the Doctor's apparently drowned face lying still beneath the water? Nothing said. A new barrier broken.
Apparently, she doesn't understand how cliffhangers work.
Yes. But all I remember, though, is that I used to listen to a horror podcast years back, way before I was doing stream myself. And sometimes they would bring up a Mary Whitehouse trying to get a video or a horror movie banned in England during the 80s. That whole video nasty thing, she was right in front of that. And I think Sam Raimi got involved. He had to go over to England to go before a judge about the movie The Evil Dead. Remember The Evil Dead?
Yes.
That got into trouble over in England. So it's just, this was
I have no stomach for pearl clutchers. I really don't.
Yes. Mythbusters.
I have no problem with you telling your kids they can't watch something, with you choosing not to watch something yourself. You do not get to dictate for the rest of the world.
Anyway, apparently, though, Doctor Who was able to at least ignore it, or at least for the most part. And we move on to the face
Mount
of
Rushmore.
evil.
Yes.
For starters, let's just say a
This
title
is
of an
another one I saw at a
episode.
convention.
The face of evil. Come on. Is that not the most brilliant title?
It is, especially when you realize that the face of evil is the Doctor.
Yes, brilliant. Another brilliant episode. Let's go to, and we get a new companion Very different from our Sarah Jane Smith. We have Leela.
Absolutely. Yes,
And
Leela and her barbarian garb, which ushered in the era of not only, I mean, we've already had attractive female companions, but now attractive female and sexy.
oh, interesting. Geekflex says you can't purchase an unedited copy of The Evil Dead in the UK even today. Interesting.
Yeah, but the internet exists. It is
We
a
may have
World
to
Wide
talk
Web for
about
a reason.
We may have to talk about the video nasties someday. If you ever have an English guest on here that wants to talk about it, that might be an interesting topic. But yeah, there's Leela. Look at that knife, huh?
That is actually, yeah, that's one of the famous promotional stills that she used to autograph all the time.
What do you think Mary Whitehouse would think of this?
I don't care. I honestly don't care.
I believe that Leela's origin was she descendant from Earth colonists where something horribly wrong happened at an Earth colony, and
I
guess
honestly don't
it
remember,
ended up turning barbaric. So this was like
it
in the
was
far
barbaric.
future,
They didn't have any advanced technology, so that was kind of cool. Oh yeah. That's freaky.
Is that the face of evil? Is the Doctor?
It
Was
is
this an
now.
AI program based on the Doctor's personality, if I'm remembering rightly, and then it kind of took over the planet, and it's insane.
Wow.
I could be wrong if that's what the episode was, but from Sarah Jane to Leela is interesting. Feminist to cave girl, kind of, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But in a way, she was her own kind of feminist, right? This was that era of feminists where don't shame the girl for expressing herself. She can wear whatever she wants.
Plus, if you were to
was
try
tough.
to attack her, she would stick a knife in her, you know what?
She'd kick your ding-a-ling, no doubt about it.
There goes your ding-a-ling. Yes. Anyway, but
Charlotte Nightstar, the werewolf, salute, and
on one of the Doctor Who DVDs, you may have it in your collection. They did a thing. I think it was on one of the Colin Baker discs of the greatest. Maybe it was in the Trial of Time Lord set of the greatest Doctor Who cliffhangers. Also, some cliffhangers that weren't good, but this was considered one of the greatest cliffhangers episode when the thing was saying, "Who am I?" and it was like a child's voice coming out of his mouth. "Who am I? Who am I?" And it's the Doctor's face, and it's like tormenting the Tom Baker Doctor on the floor, and it's like that's how the episode ends, and it's like really surrealistic and creepy, as I recall. Right?
This is what I'm talking about with file sharing and the World Wide Web. There is no problem watching just about anything you want to see.
So that was the face of evil, introduction of Leela. And, and now I got to tell you, again, we're firing on all cylinders again. What do we get next? We get the robots of death. Holy cow. This image, this is another, in my opinion, another iconic Doctor Who image here.
Yes.
These are some of the creepiest looking robots I've ever seen. Very simple design. They almost have an appearance of pseudo Roman statues.
Yeah,
or maybe Renaissance era statues. It's just go ahead.
I feel like they kind of and see especially in the Stephen Moffat era. He obviously grew up watching these older Doctor Who episodes, so he drew a lot of inspiration from earlier things. And I think that when he created the Clockworks in The Girl in the Fireplace, he was inspired by these guys.
Yeah. Real creepy. Ends up in a way, this episode, it turns out it's more like an Agatha Christie whodunit, isn't it? By the end of it, right? I don't want to spoil it, but it takes place on the future, I think another Earth colony, and people are getting murdered by these robots that, of course, I think they are supposed to be following Asimov's rule of robotics, do no harm, right? But they're still murdering people. So it's a big twist. I don't want to say what it is. It's a good episode.
What Nate was saying is it's an abomination. That was his point.
Canned haggis. Don't even tell me
which probably wouldn't be legal to buy here in the United States, since one of the most important ingredients for haggis is not legal to purchase in the United States, and that's stomach. It is, you're not allowed to use that as food stuff.
Oh, look at this. Evelyn Hampton says Louis Jameson Leela was in a series Tanko about British and Dutch women held by the Japanese in POW internment camps during World War II. Very interesting.
Yep.
I'm sure that's probably we're taking a lot of these Doctor Who actors. This is like it's always like the cream of the British. They'll go on to do other series too later on.
Well, absolutely. They were either in a whole bunch of things before or a whole bunch of things after, or both.
Talons of Wang Chiang. I remember this episode. This is when they get to go back to Victorian London, and of course the Doctor here is wearing a deerstalker cap. Like Sherlock Holmes.
Yep.
And Leela's kind of dressed for the occasion too. Yep. And there's a wonderful scene in this episode where, you have this proper British gentleman. I guess he's like the police commissioner or whatever. And I guess they have to wait for the Doctor. But he says, while you wait, you want to grab something to eat? I think my house servant has laid out a nice little spread here. And she's looking at all the food and she gets very excited and she says, meat. And she grabs like a big lamb shank or something. Just starts gnawing on it, and then he and he's kind of astonished because he figures this is a lady. Why is she with her bare hands? But then he kind of just grabs it with his hands and starts eating too with her like that. It's kind of funny.
Real quick, I want to say hi to Leia Plus Size. Haven't seen you in a while, my dear. Welcome. Yes, you're expressing exactly what many people here, including those of us on the panel, are saying. The fourth Doctor is my first Doctor. And the one that made me a fan of the show. That's true for most of us. That's how we've kind of come at the conversation tonight.
Yeah, but I remember this being a classic episode. I remember there was a giant rat in it, and there was the villainous Wang Chiang, who was the main villain.
And keep in mind, and remember, we got Darth Plato here to constantly correct us on our pronunciation for absolutely everything. So. Darth Plato is saying that it is a one syllable.
Well, I will find this out when I rewatch this episode. I remember having the book of this. I think I had this.
I mean, considering it's not actually written in Mandarin characters, we got to kind of guess.
Yeah, so there is our villain of the episode as well. I remember this being a good one. It's just been a long time. And I think I like the fact of his Victorian era. And I believe that there is a London Bobby that comes along in one scene and says, "What's all this then?" Because that's what London Bobbies always do, right? They come along and they say, "What's all this?" But yeah, this episode indirectly mentions the first Doctor visiting China. Oh, that's interesting. I guess because it did. The first Doctor did visit China.
There you go.
In one of the earlier seasons, yeah. But
that was something that was pretty cool that they often did throughout most of the good run of Doctor Who, was always referenced back. If the Doctor had a story that took place in a such and such and whatnot, they would usually acknowledge it because they understood that canon and lore were important.
Horror of Fang Rock.
Yep.
Right. I remember this episode introduced. You always knew that the Centaurans were fighting an alien race known as the Rutan, right? And I think a Rutan shows up in this episode, if I recall. Yes. So that was always interesting. Huge fight with the Tongs or whatever gang was there. Yes, interesting. James Bond would often talk about the Tongs too, though I don't think he ever encountered them in one of the books. But he thought the guy working for Spectre was working for the Tongs. He didn't realize that was a Spectre symbol that he had on his wrist. But let's move on.
And this is where the Doctor first gets to play American football.
Funny, man. Actually, you know what? It's funny. They kind of play off this in the Flash Gordon movie, right?
Yes, they do.
This episode was called The Invasion of Time, correct?
Right.
Last episode with Leela, she comes to Gallifrey with the Doctor. I have a wonderful image coming up here in a minute. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the best quality, but I had to include it in here because it's wonderful. Look at her.
Yes.
Completely bored, and these probably stuck up Gallifreyans. I think she ends up getting with one of the Gallifreyans, right? And because this is her last episode, I think she
that's why
marrying one of the Gallifreyans, yeah. Mm-hmm. And her six-parter, yeah. This is another six-parter, Darth Plato. I'm glad you brought that up. Usually episodes around this time, a lot of them are 4 episodes. We get to the end of episode 4, and I think the Doctor has stopped whatever alien menace was trying to attack Gallifrey and whatnot. And I forget what the details were, but he stops it. him and Leela are about to leave, go on another adventure, and then nope.
Yep.
Let's go. Oh wait,
Yeah.
that's not the
This
next
is
scene. That's another scene. No, wait, hold on. Let me go to the next scene. My mistake. I spoiled it. There we go. This is what shows up at the end of part 4, and you're like, holy cow, who is here? It's the Centaurans. The Centaurans, these other aliens were working for the Centaurans. The Centaurans have now invaded Gallifrey.
Yep.
Why? The Centaurans, this becomes a running theme on Doctor Who. The Centaurans wanted time travel technology. They were obsessed with it. It really comes home here, because I guess they're fighting that war with the Ruton, but they are obsessed with time travel technology. It shows up later in the Colin Baker era as well.
It also points out...
Yeah, the aliens were the Vardans. Thank you, Dr. Plato.
It also underscores that they are incredibly warlike. There's a lot of Klingon in these Sultarans.
Yes.
And they realize the risk they take by going up against a race that has time travel. They can literally go back in time and wipe them out of existence, but they're
Gallifrey,
still gonna,
Gallifrey has always been established as a very advanced civilization. Remember when they were first introduced at the last episode of the
point of
Troutman?
Arrogance, yeah, they do look like the Juggernaut.
Yeah, they were introduced. Yeah, but I remember with the Warlord, they basically told the Warlord when he was being adamant about, do you agree with that your means justified your ends? Yes, I do. And he was yelling at them. And the Time Lord says, okay, we are going to perform something on you. It'll be as if you were wiped from existence. And they basically wipe the Warlord from existence. Remember that? And they placed a barrier over the entire planet so that the Warlord, any of his race, could never leave the planet ever again. Which I thought was something they could have played with during the Tennant era, because
that was an interesting way of doing it. They're doing something incredibly heinous, but because the victim actually kind of asked for it. Oh, so it's okay. The ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Okay, then the ends justify the means.
What it showed to me there was that the Time Lords could be very ruthless, and if they're willing to do this to this guy, what are they going to do to the Doctor? That's what made the threat there, because it's like, these aren't like the Doctor. Like, the Doctor wouldn't do something like that, but the Time Lords would. But think about how badass the Centaurans had to be to invade Gallifrey. This is a big deal. Yeah.
Well, and in a lot of ways, it was being as they were clones, and they were mass produced. They were like Russian infantry.
Yes.
You just send more bodies at the tanks, and eventually they'll gum up the gears.
I forget what the
welcome, Tim Hayes. Good to see you, my friend.
I forget what the name of this commander was called, but he's considered one of the big Tom Baker era villains. He has a nasty fight with him at the end of this episode, right? And the Doctor has to use his ingenuity using time travel, I believe, to stop him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't completely recall.
This was exactly what I was talking about, where time travel was finally being used in a clever and intelligent way. Darth Plato points out that Gallifrey was like the British Empire in space. That's exactly right. And they were used for the writers of Doctor Who to kind of critique the British government,
because there's good and bad in Gallifrey.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Like, you'll have bad Time Lords, and you'll have good Time Lords, like the Doctor, and then you'll have the bureaucratic Time Lords.
Exactly.
But Leela leaves. She stays behind, and you're thinking, what can they do now? How do they top the invasion of time? And yet, I think in some ways they do, because now we have an entire six part, in the individual episodes, at least 4-parters, saga called The Key to Time in the following season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this was a big deal.
It was a
This was the
great
first
story
time
arc. Yeah.
this this is the first time it ever been done on Doctor Who, and I know that Russell T Davies he said he had been inspired by Buffy the Vampire Slayer. How Buffy would do these season-long stories.
Yep.
Now, you'd have your episodic episodes, and you'd have the ones that go with the season-long story. But Doctor Who did kind of do that here.
Yep.
With the Key to Time.
Yep.
So I believe the White Guardian approaches the Doctor, and I guess the White Guardian, he's like the polar opposite of the responsible for all the good things in the universe, right? The closest we'll see, I guess, to a deity mentioned in the Doctor Who universe,
Exactly.
I guess, right? And but he says things have become chaotic. You have to find all the pieces of the Key to Time so I can reset things. And then he warns the Doctor, but be careful, there is also a Black Guardian out there who is also after the Key to Time. And I guess he's sort of responsible for a lot of the bad in the universe, right? So...
I think if you were to analogize this to the DC Comics, cosmology, it would be like the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos.
So Darth Plato doesn't like the Key to Time. That's fine. I do know that Douglas Adams was heavily involved this season, right? The writer of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yes.
Yep.
So here we go. We do get introduced to Romana.
Romana, the first incarnation of Romana.
And I wanted to bring up that it's interesting they went with a time lady this time around. And you think about it, we had Leela, who is, I guess, the to use an un-PC term now, the savage, right? But now we go to the lady, the civilized lady. And what's more civilized than the Time Lords? And she's actually sent, I believe, by the White Guardian to help the Doctor out because it's a big deal and we need another Time Lord or Time Lady in this case on the job with the Doctor. So she's of his race. Yes.
You describe her as civilized, and she really was. I mean, she almost kind of condescended to the Doctor.
She mentioned that you weren't necessarily the best student at the school. So we think of the Doctor as this vast array of knowledge, all smarter than humans. But then among Time Lords, how smart is he?
One could argue, I mean, because look, I actually knew a couple guys in high school who there was no doubt, they were head and shoulders more intelligent than I was, probably more intelligent than anyone in the class, definitely more intelligent than most of the teachers. But they really didn't apply themselves. So they didn't do as well as they could. And they were reckless and they enjoyed having fun and partying. And I figure that's very much what the Doctor was like at the Academy. Yeah. What was the name of the Academy? Do you remember?
What Academy? On Doctor Who?
Yeah. What Academy did he go to? The Prydonian Academy.
Oh, well, heck, I didn't know that. I don't know everything there is to know about Doctor Who. I'm brushing.
There was a group that when I was in high school, I met up with them. They were, you know how every fandom has their fan groups and whatnot. You know, CAG obviously with the Klingons and so forth. The Prydonians of Princeton were the big Doctor Who clubs that popped up all around.
Very good.
Obviously coming out of
like Princeton, New Jersey.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Princeton, New Jersey. Yeah, Doctor Who was very popular in New Jersey. Here's the thing. Here's the weird thing. In the days before the internet, fandoms kind of just had to spring up on their own wherever they were. So I lived in New Jersey, so of course I knew Doctor Who was popular because people talked about it. It was word of mouth. It was this weird thing you did before the internet. You would just talk to actual people, and they would tell you, "Have you seen this show?" Right?
Yep. Oh, that's right. Darth Plato's pointing out that supposedly Romana was a shortened name. Her full name was Romana Adventurlunder. And
it's this huge.
I always thought that was this
name.
That was I always thought that was the dumbest thing because there's a line that the Doctor has at one point when they're trying to find out what his real name is, and he goes, "Well, you couldn't pronounce it," you know, implying that the names of these Gallifreyans are, you know, these, you know, incredibly difficult to pronounce long names. And it's like, Nah. I like the way they ended up inevitably retconning the Doctor. He goes by the Doctor because that's a title he gave himself. Because he's a doctor, he fixes things, and
Yes.
he doesn't want his name to be known because he himself does not want to be known.
So that was Mary Tam as Romana.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that we get to have a time lady on the show. Like, I don't even know if there was any. I don't know if there was necessarily any romance going on the old shows, but if there was a romance, it would make sense to be with another of his race. I never understood this whole idea of companion romance, which didn't make any sense because that would be like an experienced school teacher with a pupil.
That's what most fans have been saying for the longest time. You know, it is if you think it's horrific when some old man is going after a barely legal student, then by all means this is even worse. When you're hundreds and hundreds of years old going after a human female, that's kind of disgusting. But then again, you can make the same argument about a certain sparkly vampire too.
Anyway, Twilight discussion next week. I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Okay, anyway.
There you go.
Actually, there are a lot of Twilight fans. I'm not picking on you. And of course, I keep forgetting to mention that we've had K9 all throughout these series. I believe that the one K9 stayed behind with Leela, but then he built another one. Is that right? And that's the one hanging out with him and Romana there. But yeah,
which I do believe is the same one that eventually makes its way to Sarah Jane for K9 and Company.
Maybe. I remember though, I enjoyed K9. He was a neat little companion they'd have.
He was
and
a
keep
good
in mind,
boy,
this was way before R2D2 or C3PO.
That's true.
He was the robot companion. Yes,
that is true.
So he predates all that. But yeah, it's funny because he was a robot dog, and he sort of had a dog's personality in some ways, didn't he? Like the Snoopy of this series in some ways. That was the Pirate Planet. I believe this was a Douglas Adams episode. I know it's got schooners in space.
This was, in my mind, ingenious, and I saw this. This kind of predates similar storylines in the Star Wars Marvel Comics run, where you'd have these cybernetic pirates with some sort of an eye implant that kind of, implies the eye patch
the
stereotypical pirate and whatnot. Maybe a laser for a hand instead of a hook,
I got to post.
I don't know that it came from anywhere before this, actually.
Oh, K9 is a play on K9.
Yes.
I only just. It's okay.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. K9 was a good boy.
The British or the English are always good with their play on words. I'll say that for them. I forget what episode this was. The Curse of Fenric. No, I don't know. I don't know if that was episode.
I don't remember.
But there were a bunch of episodes. Each end of the episode, they discover a piece of the key to time. They have to assemble all 6 pieces. And
this was when they started doing some very interesting work with I suppose this is like the double exposed matte thing. You can obviously see the horizon lines. Yeah, and this is actually ingenious because it gives you this concept of perspective, and you can only imagine how big that thing is supposed to be. It's still terrible special effects, but it's kind of ingenious in what it implies. And again, that's what you have to look at with these: good storytelling, maybe not the best special effects, but good enough special effects to convey the story. That's what's important.
If you want,
there is a Cthulhu-esque element to it. Yeah.
If you want British science fiction of the era with good effects, I would look toward a lot of the Jerry Anderson series, like UFO, and then later on Space 1999, Androids of Terror. Oh, that was the prior episode. Sorry. Okay, yes, but let's summon Kroll. The origin of the Borg or the Borg.
I think he meant Borg. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm trying to think. And
This
there
is
is Lala
I
Ward,
forget her. It is Lala Ward. She's playing. I can't remember. Someone of
a
nobility.
princess, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
The quest for the six best X-Men, the Atrios, a world at war with the planetary neighbor Zeos, but the Black Guardian is closing in. That's the short plot line on that.
Exactly.
And she, I think it turns out, I'm going to spoil this episode. I think it turns out the key is
Right.
her. She's
Yep.
the sixth
She
piece.
literally is the key to time, which is a great little twist. But of course, Lala Ward goes on to bring about a whole other plot twist in Doctor Who.
Now, I think what happens, the big twist at the end of
Princess
this episode
Astra,
was
that's her name. Thank you.
Princess Astra. I hate to think, is this the Black Guardian from this episode or is this from later? I wanted to think it was from this episode. Yes, the Black Guardian. It turns out the White Guardian who sent them on this mission to collect all the pieces was actually the Black Guardian in disguise because he wanted the key to time to, I guess, rewrite the universe.
Another
or
great
whatever.
twist.
I guess,
Another great twist.
And then the Doctor, I think, gets wise to this and splits the key up, except he does return the one piece of the key that was the princess so she can go on being the princess.
Right.
Before I guess it goes, I don't know. I don't really know, but yeah, he stops the Black Guardian's plans. Black Guardian is furious, and I believe will try hunting the Doctor later on, right?
Yep.
But so they do a randomizer in the TARDIS so they can escape the Black Guardians, because they're worried the Black Guardian is now going to be coming after them, and he's an all-powerful, a very powerful being, right? So she was the key master. I'm the key master. Okay.
Yeah.
From like Ghostbusters. So we do get a new Romana. Apparently, the prior actress said that she felt that the character had done everything the character was supposed to do, but now she's going to start turning into a regular Doctor Who assistant. She didn't feel that should be the case. In fact, I'll say this: if their mission was over with Romana, wouldn't it have made more sense for Romana just to go back to Gallifrey?
True enough, but then I do feel that by regenerating her into Lala Ward, it breathed a lot of new life into the character. You'll notice right here, she's wearing a coat and scarf that is kind of a feminized version
Feminine version of his outfit, yes.
Which definitely underscores her as not just a regular companion. She is, in and of herself, a renegade time lady.
Lala Ward and Tom Baker got married.
That is true. They did start a relationship. That's true. And
she married after him? Do you know who she married eventually?
No.
Richard Dawkins.
Interesting. Yeah. But
wearing a copy of a body. They explain this.
Yes.
She figures this princess, we're never going to see her again. We're never going to encounter her again. No one's going to confuse me for her. I can wear her I can wear her visage.
And this created a new element of lore where a Time Lord could choose their next incarnation. She literally, went through like going through garments and choosing which one she wanted before she chose the one that she chose. And as I recall, the Doctor was like, this is frivolous what you're doing. But, it does kind of underscore the stereotypical male versus the stereotypical female, right? Where, a guy doesn't care, just whatever's functional. And the woman is like, well, no. I mean, how you present yourself is important, Anyway. So
it's funny if the fifth Doctor regenerated to Adric. Oh, yikes. Let's not do that. We'll more on Adric later.
But this does come back again later with River's Song. She does have a line where she's in the middle of her regeneration. And she goes, stop talking to me. I'm trying to focus on a dress size.
Don't get me started. Yes, I'll have plenty to say about the Matt Smith.
Concentrating on dress size. There you go. Yeah.
Concentrating on, yes, don't get concentrating on dress size. Don't get me started on Matt Smith. I'll have plenty to say when we get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
New Daleks. This episode is Destiny of the Daleks.
Yep.
They end up, where are we? And then Tom Baker finds out from this group of, I guess, alien space travelers that they're on Skaro. Turns out they're not really aliens. They are a robotic race called the Movellans.
There you go. And they all have Bo Derek's hairstyle.
Yes, and they are the arch nemesis or arch enemies of the Daleks. But this doesn't mean that they're good. They're also a dangerous alien race, right? Or alien robot race. They're full on robots, though.
The enemy of your enemy can still be your enemy. Yes.
Yes. So that was interesting. I believe Terry Nation also came up with the Movellans, too, for this episode. And our old friend is back. Davros returns. Turns out he was able to be resuscitated. And I think that... Oh no! Wait. I think Tom Baker finds him again. Right? It's just, it's an okay episode. Some people said this is not a great Dalek episode. I remember thinking it was fun at the time, so I don't know what people are complaining about. I noticed that this season was kind of plagued after the Key to Time season. I know that there was I think a BBC strike happening, right?
I don't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
it stalled production. I think the producer of this era of Doctor Who finally leaves. I think the BBC believes this show needs to go in a new direction. But I remember that was a thing. I remember one of the serials didn't even finish getting filmed. I put this in here. This is from City of Death. I believe this is Big Al's, one of Big Al's favorite episodes. I believe it takes place in Paris. They're trying to visit the Louvre, I believe. And
is this the one with the Mona Lisa?
Yes, and I think Romana makes a comment about how, well, in Gallifrey, our computers paint our paintings for us. And it's not the same, when you're using, you learn when a human learns technique. And it's
funny. Yeah.
It's not only is it funny, it's unfortunately very prescient as to where we are now, or where we are coming now. Because at first, when you think of this, how on earth could a computer paint a painting? And I guess we're sort of there. I would argue they don't paint them that well now, but good enough for a thumbnail. Anyway, I don't think they should have brought back Davros. Him dying the way he did is more interesting instead of turning D into a recurring villain like the Master. Fair enough. People probably have argued.
I agree, but I do feel like his death, just before the regeneration of the David Tennant Doctor, what was his line? I name you now and forever, the destroyer of worlds. That was some good stuff when he finally dies there and he blames the Doctor. It's like, you were responsible for the creation of the Daleks and setting them on this path, and now you're responsible for this genocide.
I'll explain to you why they wanted to bring Davros back. Why eventually with the Cybermen you get this recurring cyber leader all the time. I think even though you have these evil alien races like the Dalek Cybermen, they wanted something like a sort of reoccurring figurehead of them. So for the Daleks, it becomes Davros, someone who the Doctor can talk to, have a conversation with. Yeah. For the Cybermen, it was that recurring cyber leader we'll see later on in the Peter Davidson era, because he would always show up again. The same actor would play him each time,
right?
Even though it was probably that was from City of Death. I'm trying to remember what else happened this season.
So wait a minute before you leave City of Death. So they have this whole storyline again, a great use of time travel, where if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I have the wrong episode, but they go back in time because somebody is doing counterfeits of the Mona Lisa for monetary
doing
gain.
It in the past,
but they are so well done, they pass muster. They look exactly like.
Don't they pass muster for carbon dating as well?
Yes, and
that's what happened. Yes.
And it turns out that this alien's gone back in time and is forcing Leonardo da Vinci to make copies of the Mona Lisa that he then, puts away in a vault to then sell in the
Really?
present. And they don't appear to be counterfeit. They appear to be actually the work of Da Vinci,
Leonardo
because
da Vinci.
they are,
Yes.
and they are old enough and stuff. So the doctor goes to he in the past, he paints on the canvas, "This is a fake. This is a fake. This is a fake." And the big wrap up of the episode is that the one that's in the Louvre is one of those, "This is a fake," and nobody knows it. And he's like, "Well, technically, it's still Da Vinci's Mona Lisa."
I mean, let's be honest. Even if there were Da Vinci copies, would they be worth as much as the original? No, they'd still be worth a fortune now because they're still painted by Leonardo da Vinci, right?
True.
Um,
Can you imagine that?
if
there was like 100 Mona Lisas that he had done, all of them almost identical, and well, we know of 100. We've numbered them. This is the the Louvre copy. This is the whatever, all the different cities that it might reside in.
Yes, and I believe this one was also partially penned by Douglas Adams. This episode. Moving on to, what was this? The Horns of Neman, I think.
Neman, yeah, I think so.
After colliding with a spaceship, the Dr. Romana and K9 team learned that young natives from a peaceful planet called Aneth are being transported into a great labyrinth called the Power Complex. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a goblet at the center that they have to get to.
There was supposed to be a season finale, which was notorious. It never finished filming. They filmed segments of it, but they didn't finish it because, I believe, of a very bad strike going on at the BBC. This was later re-put together by having partially shot scenes and then animated scenes added to it, where they actually got the cast back, Tom Baker, Lala Ward, and everybody else, to redo the parts in the animated segments.
I think there's like 3 different versions out there. Yes,
there's another one which had Paul McGann. He was in it.
Yep.
We never got to finish that because of the thing in the 5 Doctors. We'll get to that later. But this was a notoriously unshot serial, which they eventually did finally finish in partially animated form. So I have to give credit to the BBC for restoring this and for actually getting the actors back to do the parts.
Yep.
It's a good idea. A play on Theseus and the Minotaur Maze. Interesting. But I think that this was sort of a codex that they were like, Doctor Who has to change. And we're heading into a new decade known as the 1980s, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get a new producer whose name is John Nathan Turner, who I believe will be the last big producer on the show until its long hiatus, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into the John Nathan Turner era. I need to watch Shada. It's not on BritBox because I guess it's not an original airing. But here we go. We have a new intro. We have this is we have like a synthwave Doctor Who theme. They got rid of the old theme. We have a new synthwave theme. It's still the same tune, but now done with electronic guitars, and I love the sound of it.
I do too.
I get goosebumps hearing this. I mean, the old intro and theme were great too, but this also was neat. I think they're using the video toaster here a bit much, right? With the
Darth Plato, at this point, I think you're just here to be a contrarian. You dislike everything.
No, here's the deal. He hated this intro because I think this is when people did start tuning out of Doctor Who. It probably starts around this era, but this is when I was getting into it.
Yeah.
There were differences made for the show. One of the new rules was the Doctor couldn't change outfits anymore. He was in the same outfit. Tom Baker, he still has a scarf outfit and the long overcoat, but it has to be that same scarf because I think he would sort of switch it up in episodes past. He'd still have like the long overcoat, but no, he says, no, the Doctor has to look the same in every episode. That was a rule going forward on this new. There was going to be less silliness. Like I think Douglas Adams had written a scene where he's talking to some evil entity and offering it a jelly baby. You're not going to have any of that stuff anymore, okay? They're going to try to use actual scientific theory on the show now. That was a big thing, making it more hardcore science fiction, sort of how TNG was.
Sure.
Remember, TNG would use a lot of tech speak on it. They were trying for that with this too. So, moving on to our first episode, which is the... Hold on a second. I know this episode. Sorry, give me a moment while I go nuts here. This was the Leisure Hive. Yes, the Leisure Hive.
You said it, Darth Plato, not me.
What'd he say?
He's calling himself a curmudgeon because I called him out.
But that's the thing. We all become curmudgeons at some point. For me, this is peak Doctor Who right here, the 1980s era. Though I'll admit that I do agree that probably the prior Tom Baker years are probably now considered the golden age. You'll see what I call this era next week. I think I'm going to call it the new wave. Okay, because 80s new wave music. I don't know.
Look, I'm going to just say this. Even the worst episodes of the Tom Baker era are better than every single episode of the Jodie Whittaker era.
Yep.
Done.
That's the problem.
Done.
Because you can tell, even if something doesn't land, that the people behind it were trying. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember liking the Leisure Hive. I think it ends with like an army of this young guy, this young plant type alien here coming out of this thing. It was neat. I like the music. They really, if you're into
this creeped me the heck out.
This is from the episode Meglos. Last of the Zolthatheron.
As I recall, the book cover, as I recall for that, had more of a green skin, and it was like, no matter how you look at it, it's just, that creeped me the heck out.
I never understood why they never brought Megalos back. Of course, maybe you could argue he died in the end of the episode, but they always do these kill-off villains and they come back. But he was this giant cactus.
Don't say that. I've had problems with the stand for my mic. It might just drop, and I don't want that to happen. Yes, Cactus Man.
But they had to grab a random Earthling, these aliens. They kidnapped this random Earthling. They stuck him and the cactus in one pod, and they sort of merged the two. And the cactus was able to use the Earthling inside him to kind of morph into whatever he wanted to. So, of course, he morphs into the Doctor so he can go to this alien planet. I guess the Doctor had helped save them once, right? So they're going to trust him on this planet. And it's really weird because, like, the human inside him, the Englishman, would still try fighting and clawing his way out, and he'd have to kind of keep suppressing him back in, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Really creepy stuff. I'm sure Mary Whitehouse did not like this episode. This has one of the best scenes where Meglos, remember he puts Romana and the Doctor in what's I think called a hysteretic loop. Is that what he called it? Not even a Time Lord can escape a hysteretic loop, where they had to repeat. They were repeating the same 2 minutes over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And finally the Doctor figured a way out of it. Like, because then they would repeat it. It was sort of like a micro version of that TNG episode where the Enterprise kept blowing up, right? Except instead of like
cause
a
and effect,
like in 2 minutes. Yeah. And
or they kind of revisit the idea in the Capaldi era. Probably an episode you never saw, where he
I need to rewatch
thousands of years, over 1,000
No, I
years,
saw that episode. That was season 2 of Capaldi.
Again. Yeah.
That was one of the best episodes of the Capaldi era. I remember that.
It really was good, yeah.
Jacqueline Hill returns to Who. Interesting. Not sure if I remember who that was. But yeah, Meglos, that was a fun episode. Then we get the End Space trilogy where they meet Adric.
Yeah.
And this was interesting. This was part of a contest where a young British citizen, like a kid, could write the idea for the episode, and they got turned into it. And I think this child had the idea of this like alien race that would like, I think it had something to do with the seasons, and this was called Full Circle. It was actually rather brilliant. Like the Marshmen would rise through the swamps during the dreaded time of mistfall. However, the Doctor realizes that there's something amiss in Aldris. It was a good idea for a story.
Yeah. As I recall, End Space being like an alternate.
It's another universe, and it's actually a universe that's much smaller than our universe. So it didn't have like the expanding galaxies we had. It's like
Right.
a whole another
Yeah.
universe, but it's like a pocket universe, and there are
Right.
planets and civilizations in it. This is where they meet Adric. I think his brother gets killed in that episode too. This is an episode called State of Decay. What do we have here?
Is this the first time they introduced vampires into Doctor Who?
Vampires, and then you realize that vampires existed on Gallifrey, and that I think Rassilon said it was the sworn duty of every Time Lord to fight and kill vampires. So apparently vampires don't just show up on Earth, they show up on other planets in the universe too. Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting. So then we go into, I guess, our fond farewell to Romana, who decides to stay behind in End Space.
Yep.
Though I think she does eventually make it back to Gallifrey, but that's like in other texts.
Well,
that was
I was going to say, in the books, she not only ends up returning to our universe, but becoming the president of the Time Lords.
Interesting. Yes.
At least for a
period.
period.
That makes sense. But yeah, so no more Romana, and we're having some big changes going on here. That's a Burger King crown. Well, it's BBC budgets, Darth. Okay.
Right.
Now we move on. We're getting into the final stretch. The Keeper of Traken. You remember this one?
I do.
Mm-hmm. This was very creepy. They end up on this alien planet with sort of like, I want to say medieval quasi-Renaissance era, but like they're sort of civilized, like a human-like race. And
right.
There's this horrible statue in the lobby with glowing eyes, and then of course you find out later on that there's someone inside the statue piloting it.
Wow.
And it's trying to become the Keeper of Traken so it could take over the source and get power and blah blah. And then you notice when it shows up, like in the final episode, like you almost hear like a quasi TARDIS sound, and then you realize this is the Master. That's a TARDIS. That's not a statue. It's a TARDIS that he's moving around.
Yep.
And it's one of the Master's dastardly deeds. He was trying to... he wants ultimate power. I think he wants to steal Tom Baker's body so he can rejuvenate himself. That was another thing he wanted to do, or like steal some of his further regenerations.
Yeah.
The Doctor and Adric foil it. Everything's back to normal. Oh wait, that's Nissa's mother is under control. Very creepy stuff here because you're wondering who the villain is, and the villain I remember says, "You don't know who I am yet, do you, Doctor?" And of course, you realize later on it's the Master. He still has the decayed look on his face, right?
Yeah.
From there he is. See, look at that, huh?
Yeah, this is same concept but much better executed.
Do you know the actor who plays him was actually married to the actress that played Liz Shaw? They had 3 children together. The actor who plays this version of the Master.
Cool, cool.
It's very interesting. The entire season was creepy. Yeah, this was a creepy season. Yep. Because you know why it's creepy? Because death is surrounding this season, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. There's Nissa. She is the daughter of the head of the society and the keeper, the head of, I guess, the king or whatever of Traken.
Yep.
Her father is this nice old man here who helps the Doctor stop the Master, right?
Yep.
But this actor is Anthony Ainley, but we wouldn't see the last of Anthony Ainley on this show because he notices a clock tower. Like when the Doctor and Adric leave and all's well, they stop the Master. Anthony Ainley's character, the old man, he notices this grandfather clock, and he's like, "That's strange." And he touches it, and then he freezes, and then the Master comes out, and I guess sort of transmogrifies with his body and becomes our modern incarnation of the Master, Anthony Ainley.
Yeah,
will be the Master forthcoming from now in the series. So now he's no longer rotting away, right?
Exactly.
Was this convoluted? I didn't care. I thought it was cool and creepy. What do you?
And not to mention the idea of you've already had a statue being his TARDIS. Now you have a grandfather clock being a TARDIS. Because he has a functioning chameleon circuit. Exactly.
Yes. And now we have to go into the final episode, which I believe is Logopolis.
Logopolis, yep.
After her aunt is murdered by the master, an airline stewardess named Tegan Jovanka becomes an unwitting stowaway on board the TARDIS as it travels to the planet Legopolis. There, the Doctor discovers that the master's interference with the Logopolitians' advanced mathematics has unleashed a wave of entropy, which threatens to consume the entire universe. The two Time Lords enter into an uneasy alliance. Their only hope lies on Earth, but then, in the moment of greatest crisis, the Master plays his ultimate trump card. That's from the Wikipedia explanation for the episode. So, they managed to stop, I guess, the universe from collapsing, but the Master, I guess, has one final trick up his sleeve, right? There's Tegan, our first Australian companion, right?
Yep.
That was a big deal. She was from Australia.
I believe she was a flight attendant, right?
Flight attendant, yes. She's in that lovely purple uniform.
Yes.
I guess they still had flight attendants in 1980. So there are 3 companions. So look, we got a brand new crew, but we still have the old Doctor.
Yep.
Or do we? All throughout this episode, what do we see? We see this mysterious character. Is this the Traveler, I believe it was called? We didn't know what it was, right? He kept showing up, right?
Yep.
Like in the background, this ghostly figure. Who is he?
Yep.
Unfortunately, the Doctor, he tries going after the Master, but then is clinging for his life and eventually falls a great distance down, right?
He falls from a radio tower, yes.
Falls from a radio tower, and the Master leaves again. Anthony Ainley wasn't as iconic as Master as Tom Baker was as Doctor Who. Yes, he was. Anthony Ainley was a great Master. And now we're going to move on to what happens. I guess this stranger kind of comes over to the Doctor in his dying moments here, right? And there's I don't have a clip, I don't have pictures of this, but I remember there's a great thing. He covers him, and then you realize the Doctor is dying, and they show all the companions, and they're all saying, "Doctor, Doctor," and you see Sarah Jane Smith appear in his head, and Leela.
Yeah. It's like he's remembering everyone,
everybody in K9. Remembering everybody. I think he remembers some of his villains, like that Centauran that invaded Gallifrey. He shows up in his image. And then, he kind of
the Doctor's equivalent of his life flashing before his eyes.
Basically, yeah.
Because in the way his life is in Doctor Who, it's whenever he meets some villain, it's like, I'm the Doctor. Look me up.
Well, that does come. It starts happening a lot more in the Tennant era,
Moffat era too.
But I think the seeds of it were really laid with Sylvester McCoy. We'll talk about that in a
next time.
Future time, yeah.
Next time we do Doctor Who, yeah. So here we go. He's getting. This was all. I even though this was like a video effects, I thought this was an interesting effect. And then certainly he's all. Cool. It's like he's got pasty stuff all over himself, and then it's like it's Peter Davidson, and
Yep.
There we go. And he's fully transformed. And now, for the first time in Doctor history, the Doctor is played by a much younger actor.
Yep.
Right?
I think he was the youngest up to this point. Yeah.
He had grown up watching it as a kid. That was that was the time period. And then this was interesting. The exit intro has his face.
Yeah.
As it goes out. And we were left on a cliffhanger. The Master's on the loose. We have a new Doctor. They're all kind of stranded there. What's going to happen? You had to wait till next year. Of course, not if you're living in the United States, because you usually just watch these all in a row, right? But, yeah. But this was the big cliffhanger. That was the Tom Baker era.
When you were talking about the figure that bonds with the Doctor, I believe his line was, "This moment has been prepared for."
Yes.
He doesn't know, but at some point he figured it out. And I know that there's something in lore that's explained what that was all about. Some future potential regeneration of the Doctor coming back in time to make sure he didn't die, that he did regenerate.
So new era for Doctor Who, and sadly could be not quite yet, but the beginning of the end started in the 80s, I remember. But I remember at the time
they started getting into some weird. They started doing some weird things with the Doctor in this from this point on.
Well, after not necessarily during the Davidson era, but then when we get into Colin Baker, and then especially
wearing celery on your lapel.
Stuff.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
there was a great explanation, and it's only in the last episode of the Peter Davidson era. Why does he have the celery on the lapel? If
it's supposed to absorb some sort of radiation or something.
He'll know if there's like a poisonous gas in the planet of a poison it, which is lethal to Time Lords. And then he says, "Then what do you do with the celery? It turns purple. And then what do you do with it? I eat it. At the very least, it's good for my teeth." It's like a canary in the coal mine. It's supposed to warn him. It didn't make any sense. And we find out in the very last episode of the Peter Davidson era, Perry asks him.
Yeah.
But you know what? This was my childhood. This was all this mysterious stuff coming over from across the pond.
Yeah.
And you didn't quite know England. You knew England from like Disney movies like Mary Poppins, but like,
true.
And
then of course that was a more historic, not modern. Hold on to that. We'll come back to that when we get to Peter Davison.
Yes. But I mean, this is a great era to revisit, though, and I look forward after I'm done with John Pertwee getting to this era, because it is kind of iconic Doctor Who. I think for the longest time people thought of Doctor Who, they thought of Tom Baker and that really long scarf of his. Did you have one of those scarves? Did I forget to mention? Did you say? Oh, you're wearing it now. Okay.
You didn't even notice I'm wearing a brown fedora.
I knew you were wearing a hat. I didn't want to put that far and find a point on it, but So we'll get into Peter Davidson's outfit next time. Next time we do a Doctor Who special. But
I'm glad you came back to that one.
I like that look on Layla when she's next to the Time Lords. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's just she's like she has no patience for any of this stuff. Yes. And yet she stays there and marries a Time Lord, I believe, right?
Yes.
Memory serves, yes. So there you go.
Maybe I will wear a celery next time. But speaking of next time, are we continuing on with Peter Davison next week? Or
if you want to, we can do Doctors 5 through 7, I thought. Yes. You want to do if you're game next week, if you don't have anything else planned, we can do Doctors 5 through 7.
This is going to be, yes, let's face it, you put the presentations together and all the work has been kind of on your shoulders, but that's going to be all the more necessary for the next one because although I did like the Peter Davison era, I didn't keep up with it real well.
I'm more familiar with it than you are, so I'll
as I've mentioned before, when Colin Baker came along, I kind of stopped watching Doctor Who.
I will be the Colin Baker defender.
So it was only recently that No, that's fine. I will too, actually, because since then I have revisited Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy. I've seen both Doctors all the way through once. So every single one of those I've only seen once, and I've forgotten more than I recall. So
I'll say this. The interviews on those DVDs, they're very candid, and they basically explain, when they introduced Colin Baker, that was not well received. That set the whole wrong tone from the get-go, and they realize it now, but people were fighting about it back then that it was the right way to go, But let me get a good picture of the three of them together. There we go. Look at that.
Yep.
But rest in peace, Elizabeth Sladen, and Tom Baker's still with us, though.
Yeah, he's doing good.
A big Finnish audio production in him yet, maybe?
He even kind of sort of reprised his role during the Matt Smith era as the custodian. No, the caretaker?
Yes, the museum guy. Yeah,
curator. The curator. That's right. That was the line that I sampled for my opening. Who knows?
All of them were my doctors growing up, but Tom was my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, he's many people's favorites. I'm not going to throw that against you. I have a soft spot for Davidson. We'll get to him next week, though. I think they had the formula down pat during the Tom Baker era. Yeah.
And one thing I'm surprised that not a single picture that you put in here showed his sonic screwdriver. The sonic screwdriver really came into its own during this era. It was introduced in the second Doctor. The second Doctor had this little pen light that was the original sonic screwdriver.
Pertwee has it too, because I've seen him use something in episodes.
Tire gauge.
No. The first one was a pen light, and it was literally used to drive a screw. It really was. But then, yes, Pertwee had it. He used it a number of times, and a very similar, and that one was a tire gauge. You're right. And then they kind of amped it up a little bit when they gave it to, and he used it a whole lot more. Thank you again, Nate. I have really enjoyed tonight's last call, and I am honored to be a part of it. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that little video. I put a lot more work into it than it probably required, but I really, really did like it.
In case you're wondering, it was Harry Sullivan. That was his last name.
Harry Sullivan.
Oh. And I really enjoyed, honored to be a part of it. We were happy to see your segment at the beginning there. That was I mean, I think many of us, all of our geek fandoms, they are discovered by accident. We discover a lot of things by accident.
True.
You know? I mean,
well, this one was one where I was literally introduced to it by a high school friend of mine. He was super into it. He had literally every one of the novelizations that had come out for every episode up to that point. He had lived in the UK for a while, so he had seen a lot of stuff that people here couldn't see. Picked up a bunch of magazines that weren't available over here, and whatnot. And he, because his father was kind of in the tech field, he was an early adopter of home media, specifically Betamax. So he had all the episodes that appeared here in the States on Beta.
better quality.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. I let's face it, since DVDs and Blu-rays have come out, I've gotten kind of spoiled. So
yes, compared to Betamax, yes, VHS was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sure we've done VCR retrospectives before, either on your
the
channel.
worst part about it was the fact that it was so much bigger. It took up so much more space, and that is also the benefit to DVDs. I remember when I was first beginning to collect Star Trek: The Next Generation from Columbia Home Video, I think it was, and it came in these oversized clamshells.
I remember that.
And they took up so damn much room.
I had Batman the Animated Series episodes like that. I think I did that for Batman the Animated.
And now you can fit a whole season into one, 8-disc case.
Much better. Oh my word! My Blu-ray set of Batman the Animated Series probably takes up less room than one VHS case for Batman the Animated Series I had back in the day. I didn't think about that.
Probably true.
Peter Venkman fan site says I first saw the Cushing movies before the series. Yeah, we'd mentioned those briefly last week. I recommend, if you haven't seen it already, there's a YouTube fake trailer for Daleks versus Beacons. It's a lot of fun. I recommend you check it out. It's like the third Dalek story era from the Hartnell era, where if they had done that as a movie, and they have like the Peter Cushing Doctor in that, and they have Christopher Lee show up as Count Dracula.
That's pretty cool.
In that fake trailer.
Yeah.
It's a lot of funny. You sit on a throne of line, Boomer. VHS rules. Well, that's okay. I know there are plenty of people who are nostalgic for it. Like, apparently Quentin Tarantino still watches VHS tapes, which some guy over at TMZ heard that quote, like from the red carpet. He's like, wait, no, he's kidding me. No, he doesn't watch VHS.
First, let me say welcome to Kolchak. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I am working on a custom Kolchak the Night Stalker figure using the old man from Christmas Story.
Oh, you funny man, Darth Plato. Thanks again for the face reveal, Boomer.
Yeah.
I'll get there soon enough, trust me. You haven't seen the case for TV?
Yeah, this isn't really him, because the real him has hair.
Yes. Yeah, I know the Turtles DVD releases. There's whole YouTube videos about the frustration fans have had over how that's been released on DVD. I have a few single disc sets of the old Turtles cartoon, but not like the full on set. I basically said, if I'm going to buy the entire series, put it on Blu-ray already, whoever owns it, but it's probably not going to happen. That and the Ghostbusters show, I'd like both of them on Blu-ray, but the real Ghostbusters.
I hate to say this, but there is the way AI is going, AI upscaling, so to speak, as horrible as it is.
No.
You can do it yourself if no one else is going to do
Listen
anything.
to me. I want them to pay someone to restore these series and put them on Blu-ray.
I agree.
I want Phantom 2040 on Blu-ray too. That never even got a DVD release. Don't get me started. Did you know what Phantom 2040 was? An animated series. It was, the character designs were by Peter Chung, who did Eon Flux on MTV. He did the character design.
Okay.
It's about the character, the Phantom, the new generation in the year 2040, and it was like a cyberpunk era Phantom, like stuck in like a cyberpunk world, and it was really good, really well written. People who wrote for Star Trek: The Next Generation did the writing for it, even though it was a kids show, and it was really neat. And it only had one season, but that's okay because I think the main story wraps up anyway. But I never got to finish seeing it. It was on the syndication, played it off times. I want to watch it from beginning to end.
Right.
So just release it on Blu-ray already. Rant over. I want. I'm going to say this. 90s television series restorations or restore, it's been terrible. For some reason, people ignore television. There's so many 90s series I want to see get the HD treatment and get restored. I want Lex to get a Blu-ray treatment. Remember Lex?
I do. Yeah,
LEXX. Kind of like Nuhu without the Doctor. That's how I would describe it.
So what you do?
Phantom 2040 is on Tubi. I am there, Geek Flag. Thank you. All else fails, go to Tubi. I'm there. Thank you for telling me that. I will check it out.
I always say, own physical media, and if they've never put it out, make your own physical media. And you can go to Winx YouTube Downloader. Download that app. You can use it to download movies off of Tubi and then write them to your own DVD.
Yes. All right. So that's it for Doctor Who.
Yep.
Tom Baker.
That was good. I super appreciate you putting in all the effort that you did on this.
No, it's fine. I enjoyed it. And next week will be a little trickier, but I'll get it done. Plus I have more time. I don't have to work next weekend too, so that's good.
So we're gonna continue this what we're calling classic Doctor Who next week. We're gonna wrap up the last three Doctors of the classic era.
I'll have stories because it was actually this 80s era is when I really became a fan of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not so much even the 70s. I mean, I would gladly watch old episodes when I could, but it was really 80s episodes that got me into the show. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So
but tomorrow night or later tonight, depending on which time zone you're in, over on Big Al Presents Films with Friends, we will be watching kind of another British literary classic, the Hobbit by Rankin and Bass. That's at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Big Al Presents channel. Netter and myself will be over there. If you hung out over on Deleted Scenes channel Thursday night after Thursday Things, he told you everything he's got coming up this weekend. So definitely stop by his channel and check that out. But then at 8 Central, 9 Eastern on your channel, Boomer, we got a lot of game news to talk about, don't we?
Oh, you mean the thing that broke the internet this week?
Things. There's a lot of
which
things.
Would be the there's a lot of things on there. The Superman leak. Apparently, there's this new Spider-Man movie got a title, which I'm sure you'll have some commentary on.
Yeah.
Brand new day. It's gonna be a brand new day for Spider-Man. Anyway, but no, the big news is the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. And the reveal of the price of the system and the games.
See, he got so excited he glitched out. That's how That's how amped up he is about the news from this week. It happens, Boomer. Let me know if you come back. But Monday night at the movies is of course, Monday night on my channel right here is a members only stream. The members choose the movie we will watch on Monday. And right now we have a poll up for the members. They're deciding between a number of Val Kilmer films. Right now, last I saw it, may have updated, but we were at we had a tie between Tombstone and what was the other one? It wasn't Real Genius. It was Tombstone and I forget.
Do you need me to go to your page?
Yeah, well, no, because you're not a member. You wouldn't see it. Let me get there myself. But anyway, we're going to be watching a Val Kilmer film on Monday, members night at the movies. Tuesday, over on Deleted Scenes channel, we'll continue the love of British. Well, no, that's after. On Deleted Scenes channel, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. We have a very special episode of Live from Sparkwood 21. The writer and director of Queen of Hearts, the 4-hour Twin Peaks fan film that we watched over the past 4 weeks, will be with us to talk about his experience creating the show and maybe give us a little bit of insight. We've got thoughts, ideas, and theories. We're gonna see how much we can tap his brain and see how much he'll share with us. And then immediately after that will be the next episode of Blake 7, roughly around 9:30. Maybe I'll set it up for 10 o'clock because I do expect to go a little bit later on Live from Sparkwood 21 this week. But the episode is called Gambit. It is one of those A plot, B plot type storylines where Avon and the B plot is Avon and Villa go down to a casino world and are trying to make a lot of money cheating at chess using Aurak. They are playing against a chess grandmaster played by Deep Roy. So that is Blake 7 on Tuesday.
That little guy gets around.
He really does. Well, he played all the Oompa Loompas in one movie. So, yeah, I'm telling you, little people just can't catch a break in Hollywood. It's just it's
well,
terrible.
not with Peter Dinklage saying.
Yeah, that didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Tombstone or The Doors, and it looks like Tombstone is beating out The Doors, which is a shame because I was kind of hoping to be able to revisit the music of.
You
Morrison.
can always watch it on your own, dear.
Yeah, I know. But when am I going to have time? This is why I do these, so that I can watch stuff. But anyway, so that brings us around to Thursday. Netter, what's going on your channel on Thursday?
Well, I actually don't have any guests for the rest of the year. So right now it's going to be me and Troy just chatting away. But, if you're interested in being a guest on Thursday Things, drop me a DM on Twitter. Let me know you'd be interested in coming on. I'd be happy to have you. Or if you are and that's for if you want to grow your channel, or if you are a SME, you are really excited about a particular thing that you're like, I love this thing, I want to share it with people. Let me know what that is. Let's get you on, and so that we can learn about it too.
Yep. So that brings us right to next Friday, where we'll be talking Peter Davison and Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy.
Yes.
I want to know what my next movie is.
Oh yeah, let's go a week at a day. What's your movie a week from later today?
Flight of the Living Dead. So Obviously, a
Yeah,
really
this
bad
is another
movie.
one that we've had on our shelf for a long time, and I've wanted to watch it, but couldn't justify the time
We know it's
expense.
going to be a bad movie, so come in with that expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
So,
never seen it, but I expect it to be a bad movie.
yeah.
Does someone order the fish?
I think the humans on board are the fish. The fish.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know if I roboted out there, but Geeky Geezers this Sunday, Switch News, among other things, Switch 2 news, and the
Yes.
fallout from it. Yes. Okay.
And that is the week in review. Before you glitch out on us again, Dave Ross, was there anything else you wanted to share, get out there, let us know about?
No, I did mention what I was doing for good old days, but you probably didn't hear it, so you'll have to
I
wait.
didn't. No, you
Okay,
were
all right. Yeah, I'm going to give you a history lesson on Nintendo consoles to where we got to,
cool.
where we are today. So it's more of an infographic thing, so you understand Nintendo's highs and lows, so we know where we are now. There's a pattern with Nintendo. I think we're getting into another period. We'll see, though.
Yep. And Netter, any last thoughts, words, anything you want to share?
I love you.
I love you too, sweetie. I love you very much. You are my companion.
For life?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't leave the TARDIS.
we pretty much don't leave the TARDIS much since 2019. You start working from home, you don't have to commute. You don't have to go anywhere.
Good. I think I need another nap.
Okay, we'll work on that. All right, guys. Well, that is the show for tonight. I really appreciate all of you hanging out with us tonight. It was a lot of fun. Nate, I super appreciate you sharing your story with us. I think it was probably a good representation of the story that a lot of us has. Maybe not specifically getting sick, staying home from work or from school to see our first episode, but we all can relate to the first time we watched Doctor Who and kind of getting captivated by it.
Yeah, I don't think you asked me how I started watching Doctor Who.
I don't think I shared my story either. How did you start watching Doctor Who?
Well, Channel 11 was like the channel that I would watch in my household.
Right.
And I was watching British shows. So I'd watch The Two Ronnies and, I can't remember the other one.
Dave Allen at Large.
Well, Dave Allen, Benny Hill.
Benny Hill, yeah.
And then this show, Doctor Who, came on.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, what's this thing? And I started watching it. And obviously when I started watching Tom Baker, he was my first doctor, it was like mid-season of Doctor Who. And I said, I remember the episode, which somebody had remembered the title of it, which I don't remember now. But I just remember them continually running through, it was the same room on the TARDIS, trying to get away from some icky bad. And they just kept coming into the same room, then exiting out, and then coming back in, and right. and you're supposed to be under the impression that all the rooms in the TARDIS were identical like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird and interesting. So the next week, I was like, okay, let's see if I could find the show again, because I didn't know what it was, and figured, okay, I'll watch my regular ones, and here's that show again. And I just kind of got hooked from there.
Yeah.
And then every week I would watch Doctor Who.
It's pretty cool. Okay, we've lost Boomer. He'll probably come back to say goodbye to us in the green room, but I'm going to go ahead and close down the stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for all the gifted memberships. You guys are such great supporters. Those of you that were gifted memberships, I hope you enjoy what we do here and would want to stick around. We really would enjoy having you here. And yep. And until next time, take care, everyone, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.
The neon lights are fading. Closing time is near. Whispers in the corners, secrets shared sincere. The bartender's polishing the final glass. Time slips away like moving through the grass. Last call for alcohol, make your dreams come true. One more round, friends, from me and you. Let's toast to the night, to the stories we've spun. Here's to the laughter and to what's begun. The shadows are dancing as we linger still. Every clink of a glass, a memory to distill. Beneath this smoky haze, our feelings they unfurl. A tapestry of whispers in this corner of the world. The jukebox serenades us with a final tune, crooning to the lonely and the lovers under the moon. With every soft note, the end draws ever near. But in this fleeting moment, there's nothing to fear. Last call for alcohol, make your dreams come true.